Hey everybody, it's me, Shell360, and I just realized that I clapped a lot slower than I normally do. I think you missed one. Right. So, before I begin, I'm gonna let some people come on, hopefully, because it's no fun talking to nobody. I mean, I'm talking to Stephanie a little bit, but not really, because she kind of zones out while I'm having these lives. But,
It's like that part of church before they start officially, where they just play church songs while people come in waiting for the service to start.
I'm glad that I'm the before party for that. Okay, so I guess I want to start first with Happy Pride Month. It is June, which is Pride Month here in the United States, and Florida decided to celebrate by banning transgendered females from playing sports in their state, so that's fun.
Boo, Florida! No one likes you.
No one does like Florida. But on a good note, on a more positive note, I am eternally grateful to all of the LGBTQIA plus people that I get to interact with here on my channel. Some of the best friends that I've made in the last several years, I've made here on YouTube, and they are members across the spectrum of identities, both sexual and gender, and I'm very grateful to have them in my life. So it's an important month for me because it is a month where the people that I care about have a chance to be who they've always been and be that person without fear and oppression, hopefully. But in some cases, they still got to be undercover. Some people still got to lie. And you know what? If you have to hide your identity in order to be able to survive, do what you have to do so that we can see tomorrow. There's been too many incidents around the world of people who tried to come out before they were safely ready, and I would never want harm for any of you guys. So do what you need to do. If you can express yourself in the way that best suits you, I highly encourage it. If you have got to stay undercover for a minute until you can get a safe distance away from the people who might harm you or deny you educational living opportunities, do what you need to do to take care of yourself. Just know that in this space with us here today, you're always safe being who you are. However you express yourself, I will accept you because you're here, and the only thing that matters is you're here to me.
So it doesn't matter if you love him or capital HIM.
You and these song lyrics.
It's Lady Gaga. It doesn't matter if you love him or capital HIM.
I'm gonna say this. Me and Stephanie went back and listened to an old Lady Gaga album. Was it Born This Way that we listened to?
I think it was the album that Born This Way was on.
Yeah, we went back and listened to the Born This Way album. I know that some of you might cancel me based on this opinion.
She has no taste.
I don't feel like that album has aged well. Just
it hasn't aged the greatest, but there are still some hits.
Lyrically, a lot of amateur activity on that one. A lot of amateur activity on that one. Hi, good morning.
There's still You and I. Yeah. They're still Born This Way. There's still Judas.
There's still some good songs.
Still Bloody Mary.
But there's also some songs that lyrically and just musically, it's like, I don't think this aged well. I don't think people would dig this today. But I digress. Also, Madonna's out here showing old pictures of herself wearing a bandana talking about do-rag season. I wish that old lady would get out of here. So the title of this video is A Step Too Far. And I wanted to do this video.
Did you hear about Ellie Kemper?
I did, but I don't want to talk about it because I don't know enough about the subject. Yeah. And also, that was more your show than mine. Yeah.
I was just so surprised because, like, her main, like, co-star was, like, a black guy.
Yeah, but I don't want to get into it. There's this idea that people have, and it's such a stupid idea. People feel like because you know someone of a certain subset, that makes it to where you can't be biased against that subset. Like, oh, I have a gay coworker, so I can't be biased against gay people. Or, oh, I have a black guy that I play basketball with, so I'm not racist against black people. And it's just like, just because you know somebody from a subset, and even if you're cordial to them, or even if you're friendly towards them, you can make mental exceptions for individuals and still have horrible ideas about groups of people. And you have to be actively anti-biased. You have to actively question your assumptions about people and say, are my assumptions based on the evidence that's been presented to me by that person, or is my assumption based on a stereotype and nothing that this person has shown to me? And so I think that's really important that people recognize, like, just because you have a gay friend, a black friend, a trans friend, a Latinx friend, an Asian American, Asian or Atlantic, is it Atlantic?
Asian American Pacific Islander.
Thank you. Just because you have these people in your life doesn't mean that you're not capable of being biased against them. So I just hate when people are like, but you have a such and such. And what? And what? Anyway, a step too far. I want to have this discussion because an article came up on Netizen Buzz that I had to talk about. Because I did a live stream, I want to say maybe 2-3 weeks ago, talking about, I can tell you how far back it was. I did a live stream the night that G-Friend left Source Music. Whatever night that was, I did a live stream because literally the announcement for G-Friend leaving Source Music happened during my live stream. So that's why I know it's at that exact date. So if you go on my channel and you look back, there's a live stream. Towards the end of the live stream, I had a conversation about Hybe and its tactics in terms of acquisitions, marketing, places where I felt like they weren't really living up to their potential as a market force, because it didn't seem like they'd given any actual growth to the labels and groups they had acquired. Well, at hour 1, minute 9, somebody left a comment, what about SM or an SM2, something like that. And in the conversation, I talked about like the likelihood of them acquiring YG. I talked about the likelihood of them acquiring JYP. I did not talk about the likelihood of them acquiring SM. And part of the reason that I didn't talk about the likelihood of them acquiring SM when I did that live stream is because I was like, in my mind, I was thinking to myself, I don't want to have a rant about how much it would hurt me for Hybe to buy SM. But apparently, unbeknownst to me, that conversation had not only happened, but had gotten to the point where money was being laid on the table. People are like really talking, and the negotiations broke down. Like, not, we were in the lunchroom the other day and, Bang PD said, we should buy SM. And somebody was like, man, shut the hell up. Like, not those kind of discussions. Like, I've contacted my attorney. We're investigating the financials. We're looking at the stock price. We're looking at the shell company that Isuman runs and trying to figure out what we can do to make SM ours. When I tell you, my blood pressure spiked reading this. I was like, no, you can't do this. You can't do this. Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying this because I think that Hybe, Big Hit, is a terrible company. I'm not saying this because I think SM is a wonderful company. Those were totally false statements. I think that Hybe has the potential to be a better company than it is now. It's got a lot of money that if it used their money more wisely, big teams could win. But SM has its problems. First of all, the fucking shell company I mentioned. Isuman has found a way to not pay dividends to SM stockholders forever. Yet and still, this shell company continues to profit by the millions every single year. And this shell company is paid because it is the artistic hive mind behind SM. It doesn't pay for stylists. It doesn't pay for songwriters. It doesn't pay for anything. It literally is a brain trust shell company that, like, the person with the ideas is from this shell company. So we pay the shell company for giving us these ideas, even though we pay executive producers, we pay different creative types, graphics, all this stuff. We pay all these people, but the ideas come from this shell company with no employees, right? So apparently, what the story is being told is that SM and Hybe were at the table negotiating this acquisition, and it broke down. And I have reason to believe there are a couple of reasons why it broke down. One is, like I said, Isuman Shell Company. I'm certain that Hybe said, listen, if we acquire SM, us paying this shell company ends today. It ends today. And Isuman, being the selfish son of a bitch that he is, was like, I'm not going to let you keep me from my millions of dollars every year. I get paid as an employee of SM slash board member slash CEO, and my shell company makes me money. And I've already skipped Korea once for tax evasion. I'll do that bitch again. You're not going to keep me from my money. So I think that was a big part of why the negotiations broke down. But also, apparently there's some issues with different media companies in Korea who have shares of SM who are already fighting each other. I think Neighbor is one of them. And I think there's another company that's involved in it as well. I think Kakao maybe. But yeah, SM has its own issues with like SM shares, all that kind of thing. So I think trying to unravel the whole scheme just was like, you know what? Get your shit together. When you're ready to talk real fast cash, then we'll be back at the table with you. But right now, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, and we're not trying to be involved in this Ponzi scheme y'all got going on right now. But everything I said in that video that I did before, I still absolutely mean about them acquiring SM today. They would not add any value to SM at all. If anything, I think that the first thing that would go is I think that NCT would permanently be broken up into units, and like the NCT 23, 25, 28,000 member mega group that they have, you would never see them again. I think that shit would go. I think that they would use SM for leverage in trying to get into the China market, which I think is their main incentive for trying to book SM, because SM, more than a lot of companies that do K-pop on a grand scale, have managed to have a real presence in China, both before they had China focus units and after. Because you have to remember, the reason why Jessica was able to film a movie in China and do all her other Chinese exploits is because Girls' Generation was massive in China. They were really, really big. And then, of course, EXO, all the guys who left EXO that were the Chinese members, like, they've had monster careers in China. So SM really knows how to create something that the Chinese public can latch on to. And I think they've done it more successfully than JYP has. And the only company that's actually had a larger footprint in recent years in China is probably YG. And you can almost absolutely nail that down to Blackpink, in particular Lisa. Lisa, honestly, is the biggest marketing tool YG's ever had, which I don't know why they don't recognize that and do a better job of marketing it, but it's a fact. Lisa has managed to capture the attention pretty much of all of Southeast Asia. You know, from Thailand on sweeping through and into mainland China. People know who Lisa is. And you're talking about population in the millions. No, not even the millions. Into the billions. That's the amount of population we're talking about here. So, you know, not for nothing, Lisa truly is one of the top celebrities on the planet. Real talk. Not even lying. Real talk. Because she's known in a way that even like American movie stars aren't really known at, because people claim her more. Like, they're like, she's one of us. Whereas American movie stars like, oh, people we see in the movies. Whereas Lisa's like, one of us. We claim her. She's ours. Well, SM did a really good job prior to the arrival of Lisa's popularity of making it to where they were able to take those things that are the most appealing about boy bands and kind of the mystique around boy bands, and they managed to market it in several different places. SM truly was one of the first companies to create a global marketplace for K-pop. SM was able to bring EXO to China. They were able to bring their Wavy unit to China. SM was a pioneer in bringing K-pop and Korean artists to Japan. Even though SM is not credited as being one of the pioneers of bringing K-pop to America, because everybody acts like K-pop didn't exist in America prior to, your current days. I will tell you this. I remember Girls' Generation being on David Letterman. I actually remember that.
David Letterman.
I know. Crazy, right?
When...
I remember Kwan Boa actually did a Pride Parade the year that she had her English release for I'll Eat You Up. So, there's a lot to be said for SM and their global strategy. And I think that if Hybe was better at actually sitting and examining these companies instead of just gobbling shit up without tasting it, then having SM would be really good for them. I think that SM would be really great for being able to help them get into some of these more niche markets, some of these foreign markets that aren't necessarily the United States, Europe, and South America. But Hybe is not good at that. And we've seen that with the way that they've kind of cannibalized Source Music and Pledis. They're really not good at being able to identify a company's strengths and then work on those strengths. Even within their own company, you could really say that they haven't done a good job with debuting other groups on Big Hit that came after BTS. So I listened to the new TXT album yesterday. It's such a solid project. Like, it is honestly some of their best work. And this is from a group that, in my opinion, hasn't had a bad project yet. But still, this is really, really good. And it's not just good because they're young people and they have got energy. There's a certain level of playfulness and experimentation. And just, there's a lot that goes on with TXT that I identify with. And I had the conversation with Meg over Twitter. In a lot of ways, TXT almost feels like a spiritual successor to SHINee. Don't cancel me yet. Let me explain my thoughts. First of all, there's 5, so that helps. But also, the way that when you get a SHINee album, there's a certain essence to every album that is absolutely SHINee. But SHINee will try anything. There's no genre that they're afraid of approaching. They try it all. And with TXT, I feel like they do that, but they do that in a young person's way. Like, whatever the young people listen to, if you're listening to Olivia Rodrigo and you like that style of music, they're doing something like that on their project. If you're listening to the latest rap hits, they're giving you that on their new project. Like, they really are trying their hardest to kind of run the gamut, yet and still keeping something that is specifically and utterly TXT in the mix. And I have been blown away by how good and consistent TXT is. And it's aggravating and frustrating to be a fan of TXT and know how good they've been, know how hard they're working, know what solid projects they've been bringing to the table, and still knowing that as far as Korea is concerned, these kids might as well not even exist. They might as well not even exist, because in most people's eyes, all that Hybe has to offer is BTS. Now, I'm not taking away anything from BTS. I'm not saying BTS doesn't deserve what they have, but TXT, I promise you, if TXT had debuted on SM, or if TXT had debuted even on JYP, I think they would have more Korean presence than they currently have now. I think that they would be considered one of the premier 4th generation boy bands, absolutely, for sure. And I think that more people would actually look at them for themselves rather than looking at them as BTS's little brother, BTS's shadow group. Because that's really what they are. They're in the shadow. And so that alone speaks to how unfit Hybe is to start purchasing more companies when they haven't even found a way to differentiate the groups on their own premier first label. Their first label still hasn't figured out how to have these separate identities and be able to do the fair promotion. And I know that there's people who are going to say, well, what they need to do is promote TXT the way that they promote BTS, and then TXT would be as big as BTS. I highly disagree. I disagree, number one, because a lot of the promotion that BTS does at this point is not even their own promotion. A lot of BTS's promotion is literally promotion that's handed to them on silver platters by corporations who are looking to utilize their social leverage in order to promote sales in their own. So BTS is not spending money to be Louis Vuitton ambassadors. BTS's label is not spending money to ink a deal with McDonald's. BTS's label is not spending money to get them invitations to award show. They might, pay for some costuming here and there, but they're being invited to the table. They're being given these opportunities. Their marketing department is not spending the budget on that. It is make a post on social media, tell people when the merchandise will be available, and they will come and buy it. It's like that movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come. That is the marketing strategy for BTS. TXT needs more. They need more. And I think because it's so easy to market BTS and it's so easy to get them these opportunities, that Hybe doesn't realize you actually have to work to promote a group like TXT. And I also want to run it back to the SM conversation because I think that's important. I would say a year into NCT, a lot of people were like, NCT is a flop. They're not selling. People don't like them. This was a waste of time. Who's going to want to follow this group when we don't even know who the fuck they are and there's new boys there every day? But if you go by the numbers, if you go literally just by the physical sales of albums, NCT is making its money back for SM because SM's strategy for paying their artists, I want to say we looked at it a year ago maybe. We looked at the split. SM artists, when it comes to album sales, I believe the chart said 70% of album sales profits go to SM. If SM is selling 1 million albums, and let's just pretend that each album is $1, even though we know each album is way more than $1, but just for shits and giggles, if SM sells 1 million copies of an NCT album and each album sold for $1, and SM got 70% of that dollar, SM is clearing $700,000 on that album's release. SM is probably actually making between $5 and $7 per album. Multiply that by 1 million. And then the 30% that is the actual members of NCT's take-home pay, they take that 30% and they subtract all of their marketing expenses, all of their distribution expenses, all the album printing expenses. By the time they've taken out what it costs to make the music video, what it costs for costuming, what it costs for printing the album, shipping it to the retailer, all that, SM has made a killing in pure profit, and the boys at NCT can have ramen for dinner. That's what it is. And so, yeah, it may have seemed like a flop to all of us when they weren't instantly popular like we assumed that they should be. But over the last, I would say 2 years, NCT has been a cash cow for SM. And a lot of people act like it's not true, but it is, especially in a year, if you look at last year, in a year where no one's going to concerts because of COVID. The album sales that NCT has had has probably kept the lights on at SM. So I say all that to say, SM found a way. They found a way. They made NCT different than EXO, different than SHINee, different than Super Junior, different than their girl groups. They made NCT different and special enough that they finally were able to get their money back on their years-long investment. And I think that for Hybe, if SM was to get all their shit together and come to the table and say, we're ready to sell, if they could take advantage of the way that SM is able to differentiate the groups on the same label, the way that SM is able to make an investment into something and watch it flourish and give it time to flourish, if they could learn these lessons from SM, the game would be locked. Like, honestly, the game would be locked. But now let's talk about something that I think is the fear of most fans, and the reason why I would have been completely against hearing that SM had been bought by Hybe. I got into K-pop during second gen, and for me, second gen was all about all of the options. There, you had your U-Kiss, you had your Beast, you had your Big Bang, you had your Super Junior, Shiny, you had your 2PM, your 2AM, you had your Wonder Girls, your Girls' Generation, you had your 2NE1s, you had Kara and Tiara and all these smaller labels that had really big groups. You had BP, you had all of these things that were a part of second generation, and there were labels, DSP, Cube, smaller labels that were just as popular in terms of their artists being recognized by the public as artists on bigger labels. And it made it fun to be a fan. It made it fun to watch groups interact. And now you have still a lot of really small labels, but their groups are so niche in popularity. But when people are having the conversations about K-pop, they really are truly talking about Big Hit. They're talking about YG, they're talking about SM, and they're talking about JYP. Most of the time, these smaller labels really aren't a part of the conversation all that much. And as Hybe continues to try to cannibalize the market and continue eating up these smaller companies and making it into this huge K-pop monopoly, what's going to happen to our faves? I mean, we've seen what happened with G-Friend. Here they are on a label with as much money as they could ever possibly spend on promotion. And what did it really do for them? It wasn't enough to keep them on the label. So really it couldn't have done that much. You look at the album sales and things are kind of stagnant. So really, what did it do for them? Well, SM happens to be the home of my favorite band. It happens to be the home of Shiny. And it would break my personal heart if they owned SM and Shiny was given weak, mediocre, absent promotions because they're an afterthought to Hybe basically culling the creative staff out of SM's artist development department and then leaving Shiny with the scraps. Now, there are a lot of people who are fans of Shiny that might be watching, be like, well, it's not like SM does so much for Shiny in the first place. You right, you not lying. But the little that SM does for Shiny would be gone under Hybe. Because as you've seen from the way they promote 17, from the way that they promoted G-Friend, from the way they promote New East, it's not promotion. It's not. It's just not. It's just we saved you a seat at the table. The buffet is behind you. Go feed yourself. It's that kind. They're not serving these groups. They're just in the room. And I wouldn't want to see that happen to Shiny. Like I said, not that SM is wonderful. Not that SM is the best. But at SM's current size and with SM's current needs, there's still a place and there's still a need for a group like Shiny. Shiny's not breaking your sales records. Shiny's not breaking your streaming records. But on a label like SM, Shiny has a value. And the value they have on SM is respect, artistry. And because of that, Shiny has a home. Taemin recently left for the military, which we could talk about the debacle of how fans showed up and gave him the kind of enlistment he absolutely said he did not want. But when Taemin left, Isuman had everyone on the label do a video cheering that boy on, talking about, we're going to be waiting for you, Magne. We can't wait for you to come home. Because SHINee means something to SM. Regardless of how they do sales, everything else, SHINee means something to SM. And because SHINee means something to SM, over the long haul, they have a home. And SHINee's not the only people that have that from SM. You know, if you look at BoA's album sales over the years, they haven't been great over the last 10 years. Let's just be honest. They really haven't. But she's still allowed to promote. She's still allowed to put out music. She still is given opportunities. Even if those opportunities end up flopping, she still has a place. Super Junior, we never know how many members of Super Junior are going to be in a comeback, but they still have a place. SM still makes a way for them. Hell, SM hung on to Kangta for decades. Decades they hung on to this man because SM understood, you did something for us, we're doing something for you, we're giving you these opportunities. Yes, you're never going to be as hot as you used to be, but if you really want to put out a song, we got a YouTube channel. We can give you a little money, make you a little video. You can put it on the YouTube channel. Gives you something to do, a new song to sing when you have your concert. And I just don't really believe that without the people who've always been on SM and the people who've always felt like SHINee was important, I don't believe that they could survive on an SM run by Hybe. I just don't believe it. And you could call me a hater if you want to. I only hate on them because I want to save SHINee. I adjusted that lyric for those of you who know what song I'm talking about. Fellow NSYNC fans, do you know what song I'm talking? Okay. Anyway, it's really hard to have these conversations in our current landscape. Somebody on Twitter said that they feel like people under the age of 18 shouldn't be allowed to be on Twitter. And I don't agree with that. I think that's bollocks. I think that people say stuff like that because they're insecure. But the second half of what they had to say was, people act like being defensive of their faves and saying insulting things and doing dramatic actions on behalf of their faves is somehow them kind of defending themselves and their own identity, and that they create these toxic fandom environments and stan environments because of the fact that they take the success of their faves personally. And I thought about that a lot. And I thought about why it makes it to where it's hard for us to have these conversations about label management and label acquisition and all of these things if you're going to list one of the top 3 or 4 names in the industry, because there's a fan base there that takes any critical discussion as being insulting, as being derogatory, as being negative, without looking at the context and trying to examine whether or not the conversation really is somebody trying to tear down, or if it's somebody saying, we just need to look a little bit further. We need to open our eyes a little bit wider. We need to actually have these conversations. Because, and I know some people don't want to hear this, I used to be a young woman. I'm not no more. Can you tell? I'm not no more. But I used to be a young woman. And when I was a young woman, I felt like culture was meant for me. Pop culture was made for me. As I've gotten older, I realized more and more pop culture is made for people younger than me. And I've been able to kind of take a backseat, enjoy it, be a participant in small ways. But I understand that, you know, if I don't like the new kind of noise track that NCT has put out as their lead single, that's okay, because it's not for me. But the day will come, because time is inevitable, the day will come when culture won't be for your faves. The day will come where being a fan of NSYNC means that your faves are not going to be at the top of the chart. The day is going to come when being a fan of Blackpink, Twice, Red Velvet, BTS, name any other group, where they're not going to be at the top of their game. because time is inevitable, and that's just facts. It won't go on forever. I'm not saying it's going to end soon. I'm just saying it doesn't go on forever because it never has gone on forever. And you could name your favorite artist, you could name the most popular artist. All of them have experienced a decline. I'm talking Whitney Houston, I'm talking Prince, I'm talking Michael Jackson, I'm talking about Madonna. All of them have seen a time period where their stardom started to fall and diminishing returns on their album sales and everything else. And even though they kept hardcore fan bases, they were no longer the height of pop culture. And the hope, or at least the thing I would hope that you guys would want for your faves, is that they would find a nice place to land, that they could choose to live out the rest of their celebrity in a respectful and dignified manner. That they won't be dropped like a hot potato if they don't make the sales, if they don't make the required sales. That they will be able to start making art that speaks to them personally and speaks to their humanity and allows them to grow. That they'll be given opportunities in their field to do different things and branch out. And still every once in a while, if they want to have a reunion or they want to get together, there's a space for them to have that, for them to do that. That's what I would hope that you would want for your fave, because time is never beaten. That's one thing I could say. Time is undefeated. So you'd want to have a graceful exit from the main stage. And Hybe needs to learn how to manage new careers and careers that are still going on so they can manage the exit stage of a career. Because anything can change. Anything can change. If you asked me what life was going to be like on December 1st of 2017 for SHINee going into 2018, my answer would absolutely be invalid by the end of December. Because life changes. And I could see where a SHINee at the beginning of 2018, if they weren't on an SM that was owned by SM, they might have been considered a through project. Like it might have been considered like, oh, this is it. This is over, guys. I guess, pull down the banners, pack up the posters, time to go home. But they have a place at SM. And SM's not great. It's not. I'm not saying SM is great. SM's not great. But they have a home there. And as one of 1,000 groups of a K-pop conglomerate that owns the market, what would they have been at the beginning of 2018? Even today, you guys, we don't talk about this enough because I really try to keep this group's name out of my mouth, because sometimes the emotions that their fans have are just a little bit more than I could take. But let's talk Big Bang real quick. We're still trying to find an entrance strategy for Big Bang. Let's not lie. Let's be more than honest about the situation here. There are some fans who might believe that what is being waited on is the conclusion to Sungri's trial. That could very well be. But the court of public opinion has pretty much said, even if the trial was to go way more favorable than what his individual fans might want, the public has decided they don't want to support. Let's talk about Top and the fact that even though Top, in my opinion, really didn't do anything wrong. I mean, he smoked a little weed, maybe had a little sex, got a little high. Every time that man breathes, the public says, we don't want him. Daesung has never left the shadow of public disapproval. From the motorcycle incident where a gentleman died in a traffic accident, to his building in Gangnam that people believe was used as a prostitution front that he was aware of. Again, the public's not really wanting to hear from him. Taeyong really is the only one out of Big Bang that the public's like, yeah, we'd like to see another album. We'd like to hear another take. We'd like you to do another song. G-Dragon, even he, as much as he is pretty much universally looked at as like a true artist, there are people who have re-examined his scandals and said, if we're mad at Top behind smoking weed with a trainee, why did we buy G-Dragon's excuse of, oh, I thought it was a cigarette. I didn't realize it was weed. It's been now, what, 2 years since G-Dragon came back? Maybe 3? Correct me, because I'm not exactly sure. YG still hasn't figured out how to bring it back. YG still hasn't figured out how to bring Big Bang back. And they're a company that doesn't even have that many artists. YG does not have a lot of musical acts on the label. You can count them with 2 hands. Hell, you might even be able to count them with 1 at this point, because a lot of folks done left. But, you know, not being able to bring iKON back after BI left, not really figuring out what to do with Winter and its parts, not realizing that they should be doing way more for Blackpink than they currently do, trying to make Treasure the new whatever it is everybody else couldn't be the new whatever of. Like, YG is struggling to figure out what to do with what they got, much less how to rehab a group that most of the public doesn't want to see again in its entirety. There are pockets who want to see some of Big Bang, but there's a whole bunch of the public in Korea who doesn't want to see even an OT4 Big Bang. And with that being said, it's just like they have all of the resources spent looking for that solution for that group. Under Hybe, how much time do you think they would spend trying to rehab and find a comeback route for Big Bang? What would be the benefit for them to fight against public opinion to bring back Big Bang if YG was owned by Hybe? What would be the shareholders' incentive of trying to bring them back? And again, I'm not a hater of Big Bang. I own several Big Bang albums. They have some of my favorite K-pop songs in the genre. But at the same time, the court of public opinion is strong and it's negative regarding the majority of the members of this 5-piece group. So having a Hybe own all of YG, all of JYP, all of SM, and then having groups go through difficulties, needing like a real concentrated marketing plan to bring them back from their difficulties, how much money would Hybe be willing to spend to do these rehab programs for these groups? And I challenge you to really think about it. Really think about it. And the answer is there's no incentive. There's no incentive. They're not looking at a Big Bang as being a potential million seller. They're not. So what's their incentive for trying to rehab their image to the public? Old international fans will probably buy. But really, what is their incentive? If EXO's next album doesn't do high numbers and they were under Hybe, what would keep them from just disbanding EXO? What would keep them? How gleeful could they be to get rid of their biggest rival? Or, well, not current biggest rival, but former biggest rival. Like, there just wouldn't be a place for the little guy in a huge pond like that. And I want K-pop to remain diverse. I want K-pop to remain interesting. I want K-pop to continue to have different ideas come from different places. And I want to see what people do within limited means and how they use their creativity to make a low-budget video something extraordinary. And a K-pop that's owned exclusively by Hybe and then very small companies kind of sprinkled all around is not necessarily a K-pop I'm interested in. I'm interested in a diverse K-pop. I'm interested in a K-pop where everybody has a shot. And if SM was owned by Hybe, and if JYP was owned by Hybe, and if YG was owned by Hybe, what kind of shot does everybody get? But this is just me positing. These are not facts that like, oh, this is going to happen or anything like that. It really is just me wanting to have the discussion, because let's go through the smaller labels that could be next on the acquisitions roll. Just in case you don't give a fuck about YG, JYP, and SM. That's not where your faves live. What's to keep Hybe from acquiring Starship? Think about it. If Hybe was looking to get into the Chinese market, Starship would be an amazing benefit to them, because even though WJSN hasn't really done well as a group in terms of breaking the Chinese market, they have had girls that have broke out singularly in the Chinese market. What's to keep Hybe from deciding that they would like to own Cube? Maybe they would like to just have access to Cube's back catalog.
Never.
Maybe they feel like we could do something with Pentagon. Maybe they're like, you know what? Instead of us trying to have our own homegrown girl group, let's just adopt G-Idol and make them the girl group that we've been looking to have ourselves.
No.
What's to keep them from deciding that they want to own Rainbow Bridge? Don't we like Mamamoo? What's to keep them from owning all of these smaller sort of boutique labels that are like mid-range labels? They already took Pledis. They already took Source Music. You don't think they could get these other ones too? Then what's K-pop? What is music? What are music shows gonna look like? What are music shows gonna look like?
Subsidiaries including Big Hit, Source Music, and Pledis Entertainment.
Stephanie's looking it up. What would music shows look like if 70% of the music show is solely dedicated to artists and other bands under Hybe Entertainment? Because they have the market pool to make music award shows about them, to make the weekly music shows about them, to make them the face and last word in K-pop. How will little labels get their airtime if, Mnet Countdown becomes Hybe Countdown? Diversification dies once a monopoly is established. That's a fact. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation. I know, like I said, there's a lot of you who are going to look at this as being like, okay, conspiracy theory, where's your aluminum cap? But I don't say this lightly. I really, really don't. I think it's hard to see the importance of diversification in K-pop because there's a bit of xenophobia put in there. There's a bit of anti-Asian bias put in there. There's a bit of, honestly, there's a lot of people who have super backwards ass thinking about Korean folks, and to them, one Korean group is the same as 1,000 other Korean groups, and they don't see what the big deal is. But as somebody who's really appreciated the music and every way that the music has been made, I really feel strongly about the fact that I don't want a monopoly to occur. I really, really don't. So that's why I wanted to have this conversation, because it was heavy on my mind and I wanted to lay this down because, yeah, I feel like that is absolutely an option that we can see coming down the pipe. And finally, to end this live stream before I go, I thought I'd give you guys a chance to give me a little feedback, ask me some things you want me to talk about, and also want to mention that today is the 7th anniversary of U-Kiss's Quit Playing video, which, if you guys don't remember, is one of the most scandalous K-pop videos of all time. And it's not scandalous because, oh my gosh, it's taboo subject matter. No, baby. It's scandalous because they had 2 members of U-Kiss engaged in a threesome as a part of the storyline of the video. They had Eli laid up in the bed with some girl. They had their little teenager who had just joined the group in a car full of ladies. Like, it was, poor Kevin was like, I just want to apologize to my pastor for me ever even being involved in a concept like this. I would never do this. I've never disrespected women like this. I pray every night. I am a good boy. I didn't know they were going to do this. I am so sorry. Like, it was a turning point for you kids. I can honestly say I think that Quit Playing was the last gasp, in my opinion, of You Kiss. After that, I really didn't pay hardly any attention to You Kiss. But that video right there, if you're going to go out, like if the last thing people remember about you is one thing, that Quit Playing video really is a note to go out on, because we haven't seen anything like that in K-pop since. Like literally a threesome. Like, there's a scene with one member of You Kiss making out with a girl, rubbing her back, and then another member of You Kiss pulling off his shirt to go slide in to the dog pile. Like, yikes! What? I could spend a whole hour talking.
K-pop premium.
I really could spend a whole hour talking about K-pop concepts we will never see again. Like, just things that videos are not delivering. First of all, fucking storylines. Thank you, Dear 10. K-pop groups were so scandalous back then. I was kind of living for it because the storylines were more intense. Like, seriously, who's making Please Don't? Who's making a Please Don't today? K-Will?
Which one is that? Is that the one where the guy is jealous of the girl?
Yes.
And he's gay?
Yes.
And the wedding?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Stephanie spoiled that if you've never seen that video before.
Well, at this point, it's come out years ago. If you missed it, you missed it.
You're right. But yeah, when I think about that concept, who in K-pop is doing that concept? You had G-Idol doing, oh my gosh, she took me to the stars.
Which actually, I like the verses more than the chorus in that song.
Mm-hmm.
But to be fair, who's doing it like them?
But it was a thing where the lyrics implied a certain type of sexuality, but they weren't really pushing the envelope the way a fucking K-Will was pushing the envelope. Like, literally at the end of the video, rip that photograph and honestly, part 2 of that video should have been him plotting how to get that insurance money and him and his man getting together. Ooh. Honestly. When Reason Concept, some comments here, it says, they definitely toned it way down since then. The only group making storyline videos is TXT, but I don't understand half of what's going on. I want storylines you can follow somewhat. Thank you! I agree, Alex. Like, listen, I don't want to have to watch 5 videos to get the storyline. I should be able to get it in one. I'm basic in that way. Esther says, I hated the way Tiara did storyline envy. Like, who wants to watch a 20-minute video? I like Day by Day.
Wait, Mom. What was that music video where it's like these cops at this academy or something?
Oh, that's Before You Go. That is. Okay, if you've never seen the long video for Before You Go, because there's like 3 videos for Before You Go. I've talked about this so many times. I feel like I'm just a broken record repeating myself. But if you know of TXQ, you know that when they came back from the big group shakeup and there were only 2 members, they had their first song that they did that was okay. But then they did the repackage and they had Before You Go. And Before You Go has a short video that has clips of the action. Then it has like the slowed down slow jam remix version, which is them in white suits with no shirts. I'm sorry, I got lost. And then there's like a 10-minute version of the song that is an entire K-drama. It is an entire police K-drama. So it's like these guys are all going in. Oh, the beginning of the thing is like a man sitting on top of a rooftop being a sniper. And then him going back to his book and being like, okay, who's the next target? Then we find out he's one of like a trio of friendly cops. And his sister gets abducted from the hospital and is being held hostage by the mafia, and he has to make hits on behalf of the mafia because he's a police insider and he knows where different people who are in witness protection are going to be at, so he's able to get the drop on the cops when they're trying to protect these officials. And then it turns out that like he gets caught because his friends start to suspect because he's acting a little weird. They kill his sister anyway, and he ends up going to prison. Or dying, one of the two. But yeah, his sister ends up dying anyway. All that he went through. And they still killed his sister anyway. But yeah, Before You Go by TVXQ. What a legendary video. What a legendary video. Okay, we'll keep going here. I liked Roly Poly too. Roly Poly, the zombie edition. It's a great video. They did it before twice. Literally, they're all trying to make really vague storylines that claim it's all planned. Golden Child had one zombie one. I haven't seen that. Remember that one My Name video, babe? Okay, My Name in BAP. One shot by BAP. My Name's Baby, I'm Sorry. Like, why were we trying to be so emo in second gen?
Because emo
My
is
Name
fun.
literally goes into a warehouse and each member of the group gets murdered. Like, the fuck is going on? They literally, every member of the group gets murdered. And it's like, why is this what we're doing? Why is this the concept? Or like BAP is like, it turns out that this guy you trusted actually was like working for the bad guys and set y'all up for all y'all up for the murder. I think all of BAP gets killed in one shot. Like, it was just, why are we into torture porn? Fuck, Vix's Voodoo?
Oh, you're right, he did. Sorry, I'm watching the My Name video.
Yeah, it's like, why were we doing this? Why was second gen so obsessed with killing our idols? The fuck is going on? It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre when you think about it. Okay. Also, where's the new group Bending the Laws of Physics like in Black? This is War with that final scene. That bullet travel circle. What was the name of that Angelina Jolie movie where they had like they would shoot the guns and they could like make the bullets twist in the air and go through 5 people at once. I forget what the name. I don't remember what the name of that movie was, but that was what it was based on. But yeah, like there's so many like many movies that used to exist in K-pop, and it's not like these companies had mega budgets. Like they had decent budgets, but they used to take their money and they used to really make that money stretch because they would give you an entire film. Like, we're not even talking about like the shit that Sunny Hill used to do. Sunny Hill used to give you like real cinematic masterpieces with full-on storylines back in the day. And it's just like, wow, we got more money than we've ever had in K-pop now, and these videos really aren't hidden like they used to.
This one doesn't have a plot, but I remember being really scared from the hair short video.
Yes, that one was an interesting one because that was actually the brainchild of a company that used to do a lot of K-pop videos, because that same company did the videos for shoot, what is the name of them? Gosh darn it. I know the name of the group is on the tip of my tongue. Stellar. They used to do the Stellar videos. They did Sting, and then they did the other one whose name I can't remember now. Okay. That one. Anyway, Vix's Error and that one Leo one. Oh my gosh. Vix's Error, I'm not over. Vix's Error, I still think about. Like,
which one is that one? There's a remix.
I'm sorry. I love that video so much. Where the robot makes a companion because his original human companion dies, and then the feds come in because robots have developed sentience and have started creating their own companions, and that can't happen because that's the first step to the robots taking over. And so like she gets taken apart, and he decides to take himself apart because his heart is broken.
Fiction and Error, that's what they mashed up. Why do I only remember that and not the actual separate song?
It's fine, because I mean, it was a good mashup. If you've never heard the Fiction Error mashup, that's a really good one. Also, like the storyline for Infinite's back, where like all of Infinite gets beat the hell up. like, I think was it Sungkyu's sister that got kidnapped? One of the members' sisters got kidnapped, and all of Infant is like, we're gonna fucking get her back, guys. We could do this. We're a team. Grab your sledgehammers and your pipes, and we're gonna get in there and kick ass. They show up, and some real gangsters are present, and they all get their ass whooped. And the sister still gets kidnapped by the mafia people. They don't rescue her, and they never did do a part 2. So I'm like, is your sister gone forever? Is she never coming back? Are y'all okay with this? Like, just never resolving the storyline? But yeah, there were some classics back in the day. There were some classics. Fucking Brown Eyed Girls, in their video, it's not the Sixth Sense video. I think it might be the Abracadabra video, where the two members get together to fucking kill the guy that's cheating on them both. Like, there's just so much good stuff in old K-pop. And then let's talk about the video that still brings a tear to everybody's eye. It was the one girl group who never went anywhere, unfortunately, but they had gotten popular for doing covers of BTS songs, like doing dance covers. But they did the video where I'll be a somebody, we're in this for life. And it was so sad because it was a story of this girl and her mom. The Ark, thank you. And the girl was going on a class field trip, and the mom's like, all right, honey, I'll see you later. And the mom,
I know that one.
yeah, and the mom was like, she wanted a Nike backpack, and that's really expensive, but I'm going to surprise her by getting this backpack for her.
Sucks.
And the mom is a waitress in a restaurant, and she's serving her customers, and all of a sudden she sees on TV that there's been a bus crash, and there's no survivors. And then the last scene we get is the mom standing at the edge of the water with the backpack she bought her daughter and the lunch she prepared for her daughter, and crying because she'll never have her daughter back. And this was happening at, like, right around the time of the Sewol Ferry tragedy.
I was about to ask.
So, like, the first time I saw that video, tore me the hell up. I'm like, what is the point of having a heart if it's only meant to break? Why must I live this kind of existence? Is that what human suffering is about? But yeah, that video, if you've never seen, what is the name of the video? It's by the Ark, but I don't remember the name of the song.
Let me search it up.
But if you've never seen that video, and
Is
you
it
just
ARK or ARC?
ARK.
The Ark. The Light?
Yes, the song is called The Light. If you want to cry, if you're just like, I haven't let my tear ducts clear out in a minute.
I remember this. She was like trying to get away from her mom. She's like, don't worry about me. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
the last her mom sees her is her smiling and waving, getting on the bus.
No.
You talk about heartbreak. That was heartbreak right there. They did have a lot of potential, but, you know, they had a shitty company. So there really wasn't anything they could do. But yeah, Cross Jeans Black or White is gnarly too, yes. What was the one where the boy and girl got kidnapped and they had to choose who would live? Ooh, I don't know about that one. But it sounds like the plot to Saw. There are a lot of really good second gen videos. Like, I just really wish that people would go back and watch the videos. I realize we always harp on, like, hey, you need to know these songs from second gen. That's all fine and dandy. The music sometimes is dated. There are definitely some songs that came out in second gen that you hear them nowadays, you're like, yeah, no, this was absolutely made for 2013. But at the same time, some of them videos are impeccable. Some of them videos haven't aged a fucking day. Like, just incredible videos. And I don't think that we talk enough about how wonderful video making was then and how kind of formulaic video making has become now. Like, if you look at the top groups, it really does feel like the whole point of a video is to have the most elaborate set that you don't even explore. Just like a bunch of elaborate shit in the background while you dance in front of it, and then go on about your merry way, and there's like some CG extras sprinkled in there. But, you know, like, they have these incredible sets that people don't actually go in and out of. They're just there. And it used to be that when they had sets in K-pop, you did something with them. Unless we were talking about like the Mr. Broho sets, which that's a joke from Eat Your Kimchi days, but there was like certain places in Korea where like multiple videos would be shot for people that had like low budgets, and you would see like the same brick walls and the same kind of like props and stuff being used in some of these lower budget videos, but then you would have like other videos that would be out in the streets and really doing interesting stuff. Like, oh my gosh, when will any Korean group ever do a video like the Wonder Girls like this? When will that ever happen? The Wonder Girls shut down an outdoor shopping center and did a casting call and fan casted hundreds of people to do a flash mob for like this. So the Wonder Girls are literally in the middle of a mall surrounded by fans and everybody's doing the like this dance. When will that ever happen in modern K-pop? First of all, don't nobody want their fans to show up and do anything around them because they know their fans are fucking crazy. And you don't know who's going to pull up with the whole stalker motif going on. So that's not going to happen. But also, like, just doing something that's so different and has such a big participation vibe to it, like, that's never gonna happen. That's never gonna happen. And it's unfortunate because it was a really fun video. And it was a video that made people really like the Wonder Girls a lot. Not that they had bad reputations, but, you know, they had taken some L's from, you know, losing their leader and whatnot. So it was a really nice video to have. And then, like, even 2NE1, if you look at 2NE1's last video and you look at their early videos, what a shift. What a change. Like, they literally had a video where CL was dating a race car driver and she was a race car driver and he was beating on her and cheating on her. So she decided at the next race, I'm going to crash my car into his car and kill the both of us because fuck that guy. Which, what? First of all, how did we let that slide? But secondly, what? What? Oh man, the videos that we had for second gen, just, I don't know. Friday Girls That Kill Bill video is really cool, right? There's just so many things that when you go back and you look at the archives, you're like, we really did that, didn't we? We really did that. Like, that was a thing that we all participated in. Hate You was a whole anime video. True. Girl. Stephanie's favorite anime video ever, Orange Caramel. Orange Caramel did an anime video. What was the name of the song?
Funny Honey.
Funny Honey. Yeah. They did an anime video for Funny Honey about a girl who was a mega fan of what looked to be kind of a Psy-like character. Like, it wasn't a young guy. It was like it looked like an older guy. Anyway, she sees him being kidnapped. And there's a girl selling oranges on the road. She snatches the girl's orange hat, literally runs down the road, jumps on the car where they've kidnapped this guy, and rescues him. But because he's an idiot, he thinks the sexy orange seller girl is the one that rescued him. So she's like, fuck it, I'm not a fan anymore. But it was like a whole action anime. But it's Funny Honey by Orange Caramel. Also, Orange Caramel really is the last of the concept queens. Like, the things that they do, they were dressed up as pieces of sushi. They had a video where they were doing Where's Waldo. They had a video where they were all in love with their tennis instructor and were fighting over him, only to find out the tennis instructor already had a girlfriend. Like, Orange Caramel. Orange Caramel, right? Right? Like, no shade to fans of After School, but honestly, there's nothing that After School has ever done that I think could even begin to match the legacy of Orange Caramel. They really were the VIPs. They honestly and truly were. To this day, I feel like their legacy far outlasts After School. I'm willing to fight you guys on that, but I believe it. I feel like After School just didn't have the moments that Orange Caramel did. Okay, so Orange Caramel hasn't officially disbanded, but the fact that Nana is the only member of the team who's still signed to Pledis, I mean, and then After School, I don't think After School has ever officially disbanded either, even though I think Nana is the only member of After School still on Playlist, I think. So, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, man. There were so many videos from back in the day that were so interesting. I think that's the reason why it was so easy to become a K-pop band, because K-pop literally had everything. Like, it was, the music was cool, the dancing was cool, the variety was fun, but then also like the videos were just something you just kept going back to and you kept rewatching because the videos were so good. And so I miss it. Even Girls' Generation had their little storylines. Like, I Got a Boy, where every member of Girls' Generation was dating the same fucking guy. It's like, y'all don't notice that y'all have the same boyfriend? Yeah, y'all don't see that? He knocks on your door. Somebody has to notice that y'all got the same man. Oh, Sasha, we are going to still be doing BL vlogs. The reason why we didn't do one the last couple of weeks is because we both had family obligations. I was actually out of town 2 weekends ago to attend my nephew's graduation, and then he was out of town this last weekend for family purposes. So we tend to prioritize our personal lives over doing the vlogs, but our next vlog is next week, and it will be us doing the review of Lovely Writer, so check that out. And we did a vlog 3 weeks ago where we did a review of Tale of a Thousand Stars, and in that review we did our GMM TV rant, which we had promised everybody we were going to do a long time ago, and that GMM TV rant was a long time coming. And my only regret is that we didn't have that rant at the beginning of Pride Month because it was more than deserved. I have not watched season 2 of ITZY. So, for you guys who don't know what ITZY is, it's ITZY is I Told Sunset About You, but part 2 is called I Promised You the Moon. So if you watched I Told Sunset About You and you want to watch the second season is called I Promised You the Moon.
The moon sound familiar?
Yep, it's something that people say a lot. But the first episode premiered May the 7th, so the second episode, I believe, is on right now. I Told Sunset About You is the best BL I've ever watched. Like, I can say that with my whole chest. I Told Sunset About You is the best BL I have ever watched. And it ended in a way that was just chef's kiss. So I am very concerned about the second season because the trailer for the second season shows what looks to be a breakup. And I had a lot of emotions and feelings.
Love and you love and you love and you win and love and you love and you. Why would you want to break up?
I mean, the breakup looks organic. It doesn't look like they broke up because of one stupid reason. It looks more like people who grew apart and one person kind of being stuck in a place in the relationship where the other person has moved to a different place and not being able to reconcile that. But I don't know. I watch BL for escape. I don't want to see people break up. That makes me sad. It hurts my heart.
Well, to be fair, as much as you need the rep with the getting together, you need the rep with the coming apart.
I know. It's sad. But I mean, I tell you, I will be watching it. And if it has a sad ending, I will absolutely tell people. I won't spoil it by saying how it was a sad ending. I'll just say, if you don't want to see a sad ending, it's a sad ending. I'll say that. But yeah, I'm going to watch it, but I haven't been able to watch it yet because I'm so sad. I'm so sad. It's just, oh, Dear 10, have you already watched I Told Sunset About You? Because if you haven't, let me give you the rundown. Is there anyone in the room who has thought about watching Boys Love? Who doesn't know what Boys Love is? I could tell you. Boys Love is a series. It's a genre.
Gay shows.
No. It's a genre of media dedicated to young men falling in love with other young men. But it's not gay shows because it hardly ever involves anybody over the age of 25. And it doesn't really realistically portray gay life. it more portrays gay life in a fantasy world that you would often find if you're reading fan fiction. So like if you're a big fan of like boy band fan fiction or like dreary fan fiction or One Direction fan fiction where the members are all dating each other, if you like that kind of thing, that literally is what BL is. Like honestly, it is that, but in television serial form. And because of that, I watch it because it allows me to see a group that's not often represented in a way that's not often captured on film. And also, it's just a good time. And as somebody who reads fan fiction a lot, it's nice to see kind of a lot of those tropes and things end up on the screen. But in doing so, there are some bad aspects of tropey fan fiction that get brought to the screen that honestly, even as a straight woman, I'm super uncomfortable with. I'm uncomfortable with the varying levels of consent that are expressed on some of these shows. I'm not happy with some of the homophobia that is portrayed on these shows. I'm not happy with the way that gender roles are enforced in a couple where both people are of the same gender. So we have those discussions on Mason's channel when we talk about boys love and how a lot of those kind of super disgusting tropes have really ruined the genre because it makes it hard for those people who are part of the community to watch when it just reinforces stereotypes about them. So that's a discussion that we have quite often. But I told Sunset about you. I'm not going to give you spoilers. I'm just going to set you up with the reason why I believe that this show is a great show and why I think you'd like it. It's a story about two boys who were childhood friends and then they had a falling out, I would say probably towards the end of middle school. And this falling out led to them not talking to each other for years. But they're both trying to get into the same university to study acting. And it's an acting school that's really well known throughout the country. And they take a limited amount of applicants. And because of that, they're kind of in competition with each other. And during this kind of competition with each other is when they realize that there are some complicated feelings that were never quite resolved from when they were in middle school and are affecting both of the ways they interact with each other now. And that's as far as I'm going to go. I'm not going to spoil it. But if you like cinematography, if you like a slow-ish burn, not too slow, it's like the perfect amount of slow. And if you like a show that doesn't cut corners and isn't afraid to give you some super uncomfortable moments, but also show you characters working through those uncomfortable moments and finding ways to communicate after totally screwing it up sometimes, it's a good show to watch. And I think that it is something that I've not even seen done with the kind of nuance that this show does. I haven't even seen that in Western media. Like it really is something special. It's something very, very special. So I definitely recommend I Told Sunset About You. But if you are somebody who has a hard time with angst, no matter how light the angst is, I have a show for you. And it's a show that I recommended to Katie, who's here on YouTube. I really love it when they communicate. I really hate BL that's full of assumptions and arguments. I'll definitely watch it. Oh, you'll love it. You'll love it. If you don't love it, DM me on Twitter and cuss me out and I'll take it. But if you're looking for a show that is just fluff all day, super slow burn, not a lot of intimacy, but when it finally comes, it's adorable. Cherry Magic. Cherry Magic is that bitch. She's such a precious show. Cherry Magic is a Japanese BL, and it's about two men who work at the same paper materials company. And Cherry Magic involves a man who, after his 30th birthday, realizes he has psychic abilities. If he can touch you, he can read your mind. And he has social anxiety. So this actually isn't something that he's happy to have. He actually is really sad to have this skill because he has to deal with the fact that anything that people are thinking about him, he now has complete unfiltered access to. And not everything that people think about him is something he wants to hear. But through this power, he discovers that there is a gentleman in his office that is madly, crazily in love with him. And as somebody who's never had a romantic relationship with anybody, he decides to explore this one step at a time, kind of decide what his feelings are, and then finally he's forced to decide, is this relationship with this man secure enough for me to let him know about my newfound psychic powers? Will he believe me? And then also, is it something that I'm willing to lose in order to be able to be physically intimate with him? And so all those are discussion points in the show. And so I highly recommend Cherry Magic. I cannot praise it enough. It is so good. Another thing I'm curious about, if you watch History 4 and if you'll be reviewing it, I couldn't get past episode 2. I love how it's not sexual. That's why I enjoyed it so much. I was rooting for them from the first episode to the end. History 4, I could not get past the second episode either. I'm going to try to finish it though, because apparently in the finale there is a picture of my favorite couple from History 3, Make Our Days Count, and they got married! And there's a picture of them on their wedding day! And so I'm going to watch it just for the reunion aspects, but I've been putting it off because I don't want my favorite show to be demeaned in my eyes. And for another show that you guys have probably already heard about, already seen, that I highly recommend, I cannot speak enough about Game Boys. Now, Game Boys is really a show of the moment, and I think people watching it today won't get why Game Boys had the impact that it had at the time that it had. But I still feel like Game Boys is a good show. I still feel like Elijah and Kukoi did a really good job acting-wise in that show, and that makes it worth watching. But Game Boys is a show out of the Philippines. Shouts out to Philippines. And it's done kind of via Zoom calls. Like the whole show, except for a few pivotal scenes, is basically all Zoom calls, because the show was filmed at the height of quarantine. So they couldn't get the actors together to do the filming because like they literally could not get together. And it's a show about two gamers who meet each other online, and one of them is aggressively courting the other one, but the other one has a hard time allowing himself to be courted because he had trauma associated with his coming out, and that trauma led him to believe that there's something wrong with him being in this same-sex relationship. So he has a hard time accepting that this is real and that he can have this and that he deserves to have this. They are doing a Game Boys movie, and then there's going to be a season 2, I believe. There's a trailer for the Game Boys movie. You can check it out on YouTube. But yeah, they're continuing on with that. Also, they did a second kind of sub-season with Pearl Next Door, which I was not a big fan of Pearl Next Door because I felt like the conclusion of that show was kind of stupid, but that's my own personal leanings. But yeah, I highly recommend Game Boys. I think it was a really fun show, and I think for a lot of people who would like to get in the feels, Game Boys got me in the feels. Like it right here. It got me right here. Other BL I recommend, My Engineer. If you like something just cute and simple and sitcom-ish, My Engineer is, if you are a Game Boy fan, not Game Boy fan, if you're a BL fan and you have watched SOTUS and like cutesy GMM TV shows, My Engineer is right up your alley. It's a good time. It is a good time. And Ram King is the couple. They are the couple. Like, I liked Meek Boss. I really did. Once I got over the lip syncing, I liked Meek Boss a lot. But Ram King, please do. Alex, I don't want to fight you, Alex, but I'm ready to fight you. not BL related, but have you heard Nano? It's a Thai show. I started watching it. It's pretty crazy. No, I have not. You'll have to tell me about it. Like I said, send me a Twitter DM. I'm always open. But yeah, I have not watched that. I've tried to watch other Thai shows, but they get a little bit wild. There's a lot of like sexual assault isn't the word, but there's a lot of like dubious consent in a lot of Thai shows, and it pulls me out of it. Like, I watched a show that wasn't necessarily a BL, but it had some BL things. It was Three Will Be Free, and it was a GMM TV show. And I was watching that show, and I'm like, there's a lot going on here. Like, baby, the first episode of Three Will Be Free. Oh, it's Shawa underscore 360. Really easy to find. The first episode of Three Will Be Free, I think 4 people got shot and killed. At the end of the very first episode, the woman got killed, the mafia guy got killed, the guy with the car keys got killed, and I think one more person got killed, like the guy who came to snitch. Yeah, I think 4 people got killed by the end of the very first episode of Three Will Be Free. And the killing never stopped. It just never stopped. It was so bad. Like, oh my gosh. Not to spoil Three Will Be Free, but there is a scene in Three Will Be Free where one person dies that I remember watching it and being like, why? Why? So this is not a spoiler. I don't think this is a spoiler, but okay. So in Three Will Be Free, in the very first episode, there's this guy who works in a strip club, and there's this wealthy woman, former actress, singer, whatever, who comes into the strip club, sees him doing his stripper dance, and is like, you're sexy as shit. Do you want to sleep with me? And he's like, yeah, I want to sleep with you. And as he's sleeping with her, he starts to fall in love with her. But she's like, listen, my husband is a mafia boss. If you fuck around with me, he's going to try to kill us both. So, of course, stripper man does not pay attention, and they get caught up with their little romance being a little too public, and the mafia guy sends 2 of his hitmen to go and find and murder the stripper guy, and then he's probably gonna like torture his wife and then hide her body. But in the chaos of the 2 of them getting caught, somehow or another, the mafia guy's wife ends up being killed in the struggle. One of the hitmen ends up getting killed. And the son of the mafia guy, plus a girl who works in the bar, all end up on the run. Well, they're on the run, and the mafia guy who they killed the wife of, he like has connections to like the media and the police, and so he's able to like put out an APB, like, these are wanted criminals, they're super dangerous, there's a reward if you turn them in, that kind of thing, right? So they end up at this hotel with this lady whose husband is beating her, and she recognizes them as being the people from the TV that are wanted for murder, and she's like, I should turn you in because I could get some money, and if I turn you in, I could make enough money for me and my daughter to leave my abusive, terrible husband. It's called Three Will Be Free. And the one girl who's with them is like, listen, sis, I know you want to turn us in, but I can help you escape your husband without you turning us in. I swear. Just please, they're going to kill us if they find us. It's not the police going to take us in. Like, they're literally going to murder us if they find us. Well, the woman is like, you know what? You're right. You're right. You're right. I don't need to turn you in. I could still use you, though. She proceeds to shoot her husband to death. Then you leave that scene, and the 3, they have run off. They're back on the road. They're headed to the forest. They're trying to get away. A news report comes on the radio. Local hotel family found murdered. Wife, husband, and child. And you're like, the fuck? So initially she wanted to get the money to get her and her daughter away from her abusive husband. And instead, she shoots her husband to death, kills her daughter, and kills herself. What? And that was just one of a series of like nonsensical, heart-rending murders that just happened while they're trying to get away from the mafia guy. And I'm just like, what is this show? What is this show? I mean, when somebody told me to watch it, I'm like, I don't know if I'm really interested in watching this show. It doesn't sound like it's my cup of tea. After the first episode, I could not stop watching. Okay, and also, if you're a K-pop fan and you remember the video for 369 So Fresh, 3 Will Be Free is literally that video if it was a long-form television series. I'm not even kidding you. Like, the setup for 369 So Fresh, that setup is the entire series for 3 Will Be Free. In fact, there are some fan edits. You can type it into your YouTube search. Put like 365 Fresh, 3 Will Be Free. And there's fan edits of people taking that song and layering it over scenes from this television show. But like the kind of threesome energy we were looking at with Shanna's little group, that energy is in this show. But man, that show was fucking nuts. That show was fucking nuts. Me and Mason did a review on it on his channel, BL_KIKI, BL Kiki. We did a review of that show on his channel, and both of us started to be like, listen, we didn't even watch this show. By the time this show was over, we were just like, fucking whiplash. Like, did you see what just happened? Did that really happen? Not a dull moment. Not a dull moment. But yeah, that's the show. If you want to watch something that's not BL focused, but it's just a wild Thai show, absolutely recommend. And if you want any other recommendations for BL shows, go over to Mason's channel. We've done over 50 episodes of our BL show. Go watch our reviews. Find something new that you might like. I mean, we let you know off the bat whether or not we like the show, so you don't have to waste your time watching the hours-long review, because we tell you right away if we like the show or not. And then if we don't like the show, we're like, we're going to spend the next hour telling you why we don't like it. So, like, you know, get to make up your mind that way. But anyway, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye!